My girlfriend said, "I'm too much woman for you. I deserve something better." She left to look for her ideal man. A year later, she comes back to me saying I was always the ideal one. Before we go on, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us which city you're tuning in from. Wanda and I were together for almost 6 years. For most of that time, our relationship was calm, stable, and, at least from my point of view, beautiful. We weren't a perfect couple, but there was affection, trust, and plans for the future. We've been living together for a little over 2 years, and although we didn't have money to spare, we organized ourselves well. When we met, Wanda was the woman seen today on her social media. She dressed simply, often in baggy sweatshirts, jeans, sneakers. She wasn't too interested in getting dressed up to go to the store or for a casual gathering. I met her like that and fell in love with that version, authentic, relaxed, approachable. Her way of dressing never bothered me. On the contrary, it made me feel comfortable, as if we were both in the same place in life. I wasn't anyone particularly striking either. I've always been aware of my physique, average height, average build, without great attributes. I never went to the gym or considered myself attractive, but I didn't have a big complex about it either. Wanda used to tell me she liked me just the way I was, that she felt safe with me. That was enough for me for a long time. Everything started to change gradually, almost imperceptibly at first. Wanda started getting more interested in her appearance. She bought new clothes, tight dresses, heels. She started wearing makeup even for simple things like going for coffee or quick shopping. She changed her hairstyle, became more careful with her overall image. I didn't see that as a negative thing. In fact, I'd tell her often that she looked beautiful, that those changes suited her well, that I liked seeing her confident. I thought it was a normal phase, that maybe she was exploring a different version of herself. I never reproached her for that. However, along with those external changes, other ones harder to ignore started. Wanda started becoming distant. It wasn't overnight. At first, it was small gestures, fewer long conversations, less interest in my things, fewer questions about how my day went. She'd spend more time on her phone, more time getting ready in front of the mirror, more time comparing herself to other people. The comments started too. At first, they seemed like innocent jokes. "You should go to the gym," she'd tell me laughing. "Look how skinny your arms are." Other times, she'd comment on my clothes. "You look like an old man in that. You should dress better if you go out with me." I'd take it with humor. I thought it was her way of expressing herself, that she didn't mean it with bad intentions. I've never been particularly sensitive to jokes, and besides, I trusted that if something really bothered her about me, she'd talk about it respectfully. But the jokes started changing their tone. One day, while we were looking at photos on social media, she pointed to a picture of one of her friends with her husband. "Look at Laura," she said. "Her husband makes really good money. He just gave her a new car." Then she looked at the phone and added, almost without looking at me, "There are men who do know how to provide." Another time, at a gathering with her friends, someone talked about traveling abroad. Wanda looked at me and said out loud, "We can't do that, right? With what you make, it's impossible." Some people laughed uncomfortably. I smiled too, but inside I started feeling something different. It wasn't just discomfort, it was a feeling of being constantly evaluated, compared, measured. I worked with my brother in a small mobile car wash and detailing business. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was honest. We washed cars, did deep cleaning, polishing, waxing. Sometimes we worked long hours under the sun. We didn't get rich, but we covered the basics. With that money, we paid the rent, utilities, and most of the household expenses. Want to work part-time, but the biggest financial burden fell on me. I never complained to her about it. To me, living together meant supporting each other. Over time, her comments became more direct. "I'm the pretty one in the relationship," she told me once in front of the mirror. Let's be honest. I didn't know what to answer. I laughed automatically, but that phrase stayed with me. Another night, while we were having dinner, she mentioned her friends' husbands again. "They actually can give them the life they deserve," she said. "Good houses, trips, real stability." "We're doing the best we can," I replied. "We're not doing badly." She sighed as if I didn't understand something obvious. "It's not enough for me," she said quietly. From then on, arguments became more frequent. I tried to talk, ask what was wrong with her, what she needed. She answered evasively or with sharp phrases. She'd tell me I was overreacting, that I was taking everything personally. The final fight happened on a random night. There was no yelling at first. It was a tense conversation that escalated little by little. I asked her directly if she wasn't comfortable with me anymore. She stayed silent for a few seconds and then said something I'll never forget. "It's just that I'm too much woman for you." She said, "I've deserved something better for a long time." I felt like she'd knocked the wind out of my chest. "What do you mean by that?" I asked. "That I need another type of man." She replied, "Someone on my level." We argued. I told her those comparisons hurt me, that I'd always been there for her. She replied it wasn't enough, that she'd settled for too long. 2 days later, she packed her things. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply said she was leaving, that she needed to look for what she really deserved. I stayed in the apartment surrounded by empty spaces and silence. I kept working, paying bills, waking up every morning with a constant feeling of sadness and confusion. I wondered at what moment I stopped being enough, or if I ever truly was. After Wanda left, there was a period I prefer not to idealize. It wasn't a clean breakup, nor a quick recovery. For weeks I cried more than I'd like to admit. I didn't just cry at night. Sometimes I broke down in the car, other times while working. The absence was felt in small things, a mug that wasn't used anymore, the free space in the closet, the silence when coming home. During that time, I questioned myself a lot. I went over conversations, gestures, decisions. I wondered if I'd really fallen behind, if I'd been comfortable instead of ambitious, if she was right to think she deserved something better. Those ideas chased me even when I tried to distract myself. However, something started changing little by little. It wasn't a conscious decision to get over her, but rather an emotional exhaustion. It reached a point where I didn't have the energy to keep feeling like that anymore. I didn't stop thinking about her all at once, but I started letting go of that version of me that was anchored to the past. Work became my refuge. I started accepting more jobs with my brother, more washes, more detailing, more hours under the sun. If we worked 8 hours before, now we were doing 10 or 12. I wasn't doing it just for the money, although it also helped, because while I was busy, my mind quieted down a bit. My brother noticed it before me. One day, while we were putting the equipment away after an especially long day, he looked at me seriously and said, "Brother, I think it's good you're a hard worker, but you're going to burn out like this." I answered him almost without thinking, "Don't worry, I'm fine. I need to keep busy." He didn't insist, but his comment stuck with me. Still, I kept going. I preferred physical exhaustion to being alone with my thoughts. As months passed, something started taking shape in my head. I'd always liked cars, not just washing them or leaving them shiny, but modifying them, customizing them. Since I was young, I'd been a tuning fan. I wasn't a certified expert, but I'd learned through practice, videos, trial and error. All the cars I owned, I modified in some way. Aesthetic changes, small engine adjustments, simple body kits. It was something I did for fun. I never considered it a real business. Until that moment, I started thinking maybe I could do something different. Car washing was stable, but also limiting. It depended on the weather, the time, the volume. On the other hand, car customization had something more creative, more personal. Besides, in my city, that kind of service wasn't common. There were big shops focused on repairs or traditional mechanics, but almost no one offered aesthetic modifications or specialized tuning. I talked to my brother, explained the idea cautiously without big expectations. "I want to try something new," I told him. Not to quit washing, but to start with a small modification shop. He listened to me carefully, didn't laugh or downplay it. "If anyone can do it, it's you," he told me. "But do it right, not halfway." That was the push I needed. I started very modestly. I rented a small garage in a simple neighborhood. It wasn't a professional shop by any means. It was a small space with the basics, tools, decent lighting, and a lot of desire. At first, I didn't repair cars. I focused solely on simple aesthetic modifications, color changes, body kit installations, visual adjustments. The first clients came by recommendation. One would talk to another. Someone would see a modified car on the street and ask where it had been done. Little by little, I started having constant work. I was surprised by how fast the demand grew. Apparently, there were more people interested in that kind of service than I imagined. Some clients came from other areas of the city. They said there weren't many places that dared to customize cars accessibly. For the first time in a long time, I felt good about myself. Not euphorically happy, but at peace. I woke up with a clear purpose. Every project was different. Every car represented a challenge. I'd return home tired, but with a different satisfaction than before. Almost a year passed like that. During that time, I heard nothing from Wanda. I didn't look for her, and she didn't look for me either. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped imagining scenarios. Her name stopped hurting with the same intensity. The shop grew. It wasn't just an improvised garage anymore. I reinvested what I earned into better tools, quality paint, equipment for more complex modifications. I started working with simple engine changes, always within what I knew how to do well. One day, a different client arrived. He was a young guy quite well known on social media, especially on TikTok. He had many followers and used to record content related to cars. He arrived with a clear proposal. He wanted to completely change his car's color and make some engine modifications to improve performance. I accepted the job with nerves and excitement. I knew if it went well, it could be a great opportunity. I worked more carefully than usual. I checked everything twice. I didn't improvise anything. When the car was ready, the result was better than I expected. The client recorded the whole process. He uploaded several videos. One of them surpassed 1 million views in a few days. My shop was tagged. My name was there. From that moment on, things sped up. I received messages from interested people. New clients arrived saying they'd seen me on social media. There were even people who recognized me on the street. It wasn't real fame, but for someone like me, it was something completely new. I clearly remember the day I was stopped at a gas station. "You're the guy from the tuning shop, right?" a guy asked me. I nodded surprised. "I saw the video of the car you changed the color of." It turned out amazing. That comment, although simple, impacted me more than I imagined. For the first time, I felt that something I had built with my hands was being recognized. That night, I returned to the shop late. I sat alone for a moment, looking at the space that had previously been just an empty garage. I thought about everything that had happened during that year, the breakup, the pain, the overworking, the fear of failure. That's when my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. I opened it without thinking too much. It was Wanda. The message said, "Hi, I'm Wanda. I see your business is doing well. Congrats." I read it twice. I didn't feel immediate anger or joy or nostalgia. It was more of a weird feeling, as if someone had knocked on a door that had been closed for a long time. I didn't reply. I locked the screen and kept working. I thought that'd be it. A few days later, I received a Facebook notification. It was a message from her. It caught my attention cause, ironically, she'd blocked me first when she left. "Hi. I think you didn't read a message I sent you a few days ago. I just wanted to congratulate you." I didn't answer again. I didn't do it out of pride or wanting to punish her. I simply didn't feel the need. I'd learned to live without pending explanations. I closed the conversation and went on with my things. A couple more days passed, and I thought that'd be the end. I was wrong. One afternoon, while working on a car inside the shop, I heard a voice I recognized instantly. Marlon. I looked up and saw her standing a few meters away. Wanda was dressed elegantly, very different from the version I'd known at the beginning of our relationship. Her presence threw me off. I didn't expect to see her there. I couldn't believe she'd dare to go. She greeted me from afar with a smile. I didn't reply immediately. I stayed still for a few seconds, trying to process the situation. Then she walked quickly towards me as if nothing had happened. She opened her arms to hug me. I took a step back. "Hi," I said without getting closer. She stopped, visibly uncomfortable, but quickly recovered her smile. "I'm glad to see you," she said. "Really, I'm very proud of you." I didn't know what to answer. I just nodded. "You always said you wanted to have a shop like this," she continued, "and you achieved it. I admire you a lot." Her words sounded rehearsed, as if she'd practiced that speech before coming. I felt a mix of disbelief and tension. "What are you doing here, Wanda?" I finally asked. "I just wanted to see you," she replied, "and congratulate you in person. I thought we could have dinner someday, catch up." I shook my head without hesitating. No, my answer was dry, direct. There was no room for interpretations. She frowned slightly. No, she repeated. Not even a talk. I don't want to, I said. I'm busy. The silence became uncomfortable. She looked around the shop, then looked back at me. It's fine, she said finally. I didn't want to bother you. She turned around and left. I watched her walk away without feeling relief or guilt, just a weird feeling, as if a part of my past had tried to sneak into a life that didn't belong to it anymore. I thought that'd be the last time. It wasn't. A few days later, she appeared again. This time, she didn't arrive empty-handed. She entered the shop holding a bag of food. Hi, she said. I brought you something to eat. I thought you'd like it. A hard-working man, like you, must end up hungry. I looked at her in silence. I didn't smile. I didn't say thanks. I just watched her trying to understand what was going on. What are you doing? Wanda? I asked her. I don't understand. First you leave saying I'm the worst thing in your life, and now you come with a burger trying to win me back or something like that. She quickly shook her head. No, it's not that. She replied, I'm just a more mature woman now. I've changed. I know I said a lot of nonsense before. I wanted to apologize and know if we can have at least a cordial relationship, a friendship. She got a little closer. I'm going to therapy, she added. I'm a new woman. I listened to everything without interrupting her. When she finished, I took a deep breath. I'm sorry, I said, but I don't want anything with you. No friendship, no contact. Her expression changed. The smile vanished and gave way to a mix of frustration and surprise. Come on, she said. I know you miss our relationship. You're another man now. The man I knew before was pathetic. You changed too. I felt how that word hit me. Pathetic? I asked, looking intently at her. Don't take it the wrong way, she answered quickly. But you were a car washer. A woman like me couldn't be with someone like that. Now you become a real man. You look very sexy modifying cars. I think you were always the ideal one. You just needed to mature a bit. I looked at her tiredly and told her without raising my voice. Can you leave now, please? She completely ignored my words, took another step towards me, and kept talking as if she were reciting something she'd been rehearsing for a long time. Now you're the ideal man I always wanted, she said. You need me. A king must always have a queen to share the throne. We'll be successful and we'll have beautiful kids. For a moment, I thought she was joking. I looked at her waiting for some gesture that indicated irony, but her expression was completely serious. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt a mix of disbelief and secondhand embarrassment. I think going to the salon so much to get those huge nails made you inhale too much acrylic. I told her, you're unhinged. Her face changed immediately. What's wrong with you? She replied, annoyed. I'm flattering you. I shook my head. Flattering me. I said, you say I was pathetic, and now that I have some recognition and money, I'm not anymore. That's how girls like you are. You crave a successful man, but you aren't willing to support him from the beginning. Success is built. It doesn't appear out of nowhere. She opened her mouth to interrupt me, but I didn't let her. The pathetic one here is me. No, the pathetic one is you. You talk about a woman of your category, but please, you live off your parents. Her expression tensed. And what's wrong with my parents paying for some of my things? She replied. I didn't answer her directly. I kept talking without a filter anymore. You think you're a special woman when you're just as empty. You aren't from any special category. The money isn't yours, it's your parents'. And physically, being honest, you're pretty average. I've met girls with better attributes than you. That'd make her explode. What's wrong with you, idiot? She yelled. I'm not going to allow you to insult me like that. Yet you were right there chasing me for years, and every night you wanted to do it. You think my body is average. You didn't say that when we lived together. If one day I didn't want to do it, you were in a bad mood. At that moment, I realized we weren't alone. Some of the shop employees had heard everything. There were a couple of nervous laughs that quickly turned into open bursts of laughter. I laughed too, not cause it was funny, but cause of how absurd the situation had become. You're just making a fool of yourself, I told her. Leave, please. She looked at me with rage, breathing heavily. I'm leaving, she said, but I'm warning you about something. I'm going to tell my dad to close down this cheap little shop of yours. He works in the government. I couldn't help laughing. Please, Wanda, I replied. Your father works in the kitchen area of a public hospital. The employee's laughs intensified. She turned red. Out of anger or shame, I don't know. Yes, but that hospital is government-run, she insisted. And he has contacts. You'll see. I didn't say anything else. I simply watched her as she turned around and left the shop visibly furious. I thought everything would end there. The next day, checking the shop's reviews, I saw a new negative rating. It said, "The owner is an idiot, don't go there." I read it once and then smiled. I didn't reply to it, I didn't report it, I didn't feel the need to defend myself. That day, while working on a car, I reflected on everything that happened, on how someone can despise you when you're building something, but try to return when that effort starts to bear fruit. On how some people confuse value with status and love with convenience. I realized I hadn't lost anything when Wanda left. On the contrary, I'd gained something much more important: clarity.